Hello everyone and welcome to Avantika Designeering Series or ADS as we like to call it. Every week on Wednesday, we feature design and technology leaders who share their professional journey, their thoughts on their domain of work, and designeering where the world of design and engineering meet. Make sure you follow us on social media Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And with that, let's continue with your show.
Hello, Darshan. Welcome to Avantika Designeering podcast series. We are so glad to host you on our special show on the eve of World Youth Skills Day, which was brought to all our listeners in association with World Skills International and NSDC in India. We are so glad that you are with us today, sharing your thoughts and skills on designing, skilling, and a lot more.
Thank you, Rohit, and thank you everyone who's listening to this podcast. Very happy to reflect on my ideas on design thinking today with you all guys.
So Darshan, while we do, since the last 2 months that we've been doing our podcast, the first question that we always start with is the current pandemic situation that is happening around. But I'll twist the question a little, and my question is that having faced such a traumatic last few months, COVID has seeped into all our lives now. How do you think this pandemic will change human behavior in the long run? And will this become a consideration in all design processes in the future?
Thank you for asking me this question. We all are thinking about this every day. I think, my perspective, we were already in the transformational state as all, as humans, I think, because of the digitization per se. And I think, this transformation was kind of in a limbo for me when I reflect back, when I look myself back, what we were doing. And I think there was a lot of self expression, social conversation, globalization because of the social media and the platforms. And then I think it was reaching to a point where it was becoming sort of a noise and kind of a lot of advices. Uh, and I would say that less of an action. So, what this to me, COVID has done, and foolish as it sounds, but I think COVID has nudged us all finally to take some action. We had some wonderful ideas, we were raising good questions, but I think now it's time to actually, pull our sleeves and kind of now see what all of us have to do on our ongoing work and area. On specifically on the question of design and how will it change human behavior, I think design discipline itself is a humanitarian discipline, right? It's a purpose-based creative field. The design training and practice, at core is centered around human behavior and their relationships with each other, with materials, planet, with nature, and now with technology, right? So naturally, with change in human behavior, all the consideration, with respect to design, are gonna be completely redefined. And some example to just give you some examples of whether it is materialistic consumption, whether it is, this whole renowned sense of community, social responsibility, our personal well being, this whole huge peak in our intellectual thinking now, heightened belief in science and nature, technology integration. So much has changed, and this pause has given us so much to think. And I think this for me was a great immersion time as a designer. And now there are a lot of things that before COVID we wanted to do, in integrating into a design solution, whether it is social inclusion, whether it is sustainability, whether it is using more greener material and systems. And I think this is a great time for design to actually do all that. So, from my experience, This is a great time for industries and for several fields to adapt into design as a discipline and utilize at the systems level to mine more insights, to do some immersions at the service level. So I think this is the best time to me, for our field, and the best time to now move from preaching to practice, I guess.
Exciting. So, in fact, before I get into your journey, a question that arises from what you just shared: is there any one particular thing that you realized in this COVID period, in this lockdown period, and you've started consciously using it in your design approach? Any one thing that you would want to share with us?
I would say looking at the materiality, the kind of amount of packaging and the plastic material we have been using. We were, of course, very conscious about it at Godrej. We have been very, very conscious. But I think this situation allows us to look at the formats very differently before even packaging. So I think we are going to be a little bit more risk taking in that area.
Super. That's a very, very noble thought indeed.
Yeah.
So moving from COVID and how it has impacted design, we would now like to get into your journey. So from your days at NID to now global head of design at Godrej, can you share your entire journey with us?
It's an incredible journey. I think as a design practitioner in a country like us, to be able to to be at this place where there's so much that I can share now. Going back to NID, I think it was NID provided me that environment that allowed me to explore possibilities, right? When we are young, we have fantasies and dreams and imagination, and we really don't know that how one can translate that. Is that even possible? Is that even realistic? But when you go to NID and you are surrounded by this wonderful workshops and wonderful different disciplines, from textiles to ceramics to UX UI labs to a library, I think it was a place which taught me so many tools and techniques to kind of illustrate the ideas you have and bring that into reality. So it kind of put a method to how can you render out a dream solution or something which is unimaginable, or it's just an image in your head. How can you actually bring it out and actually make a whole offering out of it which can help lots of people? So NID, I mean, I've learned all different mediums. What I used to do at NID, and my one of my tricks at NID was to at every semester kind of take up a project which is very different from the previous one, where I get to explore a different workshop. So I kind of fully utilized all NID facilities during those 2.5 years. And from that, my professional journey started with Godrej, and to be more specific, Godrej and Boys, Furniture and Interior Division. And I must say that while there were a lot of things which were common from what I learned at NID, because they had workshops, prototype, but there was still a lot which kind of I kind of had to self learn, because I think after some time I started to realize that at design schools you are taught techniques, you're taught skills, you're taught design principles, etc. But there are certain gaps, like in terms of how can I integrate this into a real time working every day, and what do I do, what skills do I need, was something that I really had to work hard, because of, I guess, as India, we are not necessarily well versed. And at that time, back in 2005, we only knew design for its certain aspects of it. So there was a kind of a void in translation. And then I think GCPL happened in 2009, and I met Nisa Godrej. And I think it was refreshing to speak to her and share my ideas, what I was doing at Godrej and Boys. And I could see that, how important it is to have a leadership which understands the subject, and it then becomes so much more easier to get to action and to translate ideas and kind of move that forward. And I think that partnership is very special to me. I think that got a lot of value at GCPL, because I think just having a knowledge of design is not good enough. You need people around you to kind of understand the subject matter. And I think I got very fortunate that I found somebody like that and who could champion and give you that kind of a space to prototype and try out and experiment what design has to offer. So I would say that at some of these points, I think at an idea was a student, I practiced that for a little bit while. When I moved to GCPL, I think I had to become a student again to kind of understand the domain. And then, so it's been an interesting cyclic journey for me to kind of learn and then unlearn and then learn something new and apply. And I think at this very moment, I would think that I'm again at that stage of, learning a lot of things. So I'm really excited to see now what next lies in the journey ahead.
Excellent. So there's a speech that is very special to me, which is Steve Jobs, "Stay hungry, stay foolish,"
Yeah,
where he talks about connecting the dots. And you, having done a bachelor's in architecture, master's in industrial design,
yeah.
what made you go through a general management program at Harvard Business School? How do you now connect these dots, reflecting on what you've done till date?
So I did bachelor's in interior architecture. It was a 5-year program. It kind of taught me a little bit about human interaction with space and scale, and how we interact with within, inside the wall, outside the wall, with nature. Because shelter is such an important aspect of humans, and that became a foundation. And then I think product design definitely got me more into a detail of, now within that shelter or those environments, what are these different objects, what can you do with them, and can they be even more exciting and be part of your everyday living seamlessly. 2009, when I joined GCPL, I think from 2009 to 2012, we had gained some success through applying design thinking, right? There were some misses, but mostly I think we had almost cracked the Godrej way. We had some good idea, vision. We had launched big, we had refreshed Synthol, and we had some really good innovations under Godrej Expert Hair Color. So we had gained a lot of success in terms of culture change of this whole design and innovation, and it was a kick started really well. And you could see the energy around, and everything was changing because of that little change of how we started thinking differently and prototyping differently. I was really hoping, and this is where I was really hoping that, okay, my job's done. I've already established a certain process. Now we just have to keep doing it. And I was really hoping that somebody else would do that management. And I was really hoping that, I'm a designer, I can't manage. But I mean, I'm sure these people will find somebody who can do that. But it doesn't happen like that. It turns out it doesn't work. If you have a vision, you have to drive it, and you have to learn what you need to learn in the journey. So I think it was just having great ideas not good enough. So I think it was very early we realized that there's a gap in terms of how can you now learn a language of business. And if you have ideas, how can you actually put the ideas beyond its aesthetics and functionality, but in terms of what value will it create for economy, for business, for growth. And I think also the other more important part of my journey at that time was leadership. And I think this was Godrej's decision to send me. I'm sure they saw potential, and they saw the gaps very early in time. And I think it was sponsored by them. So I wasn't sure what was going to happen, but I did that, and I think it was very, very valuable. It provided me a lot of frameworks. It helped me present ideas in a very different manner, in a different light. It just didn't remain a design idea, but it became a value proposition per se. I think with those skills, now I see that I'm a lot more empowered. I can have a more concrete conversations with stakeholders, people within the organization, influencers, and actually have a better negotiation around design.
That's interesting. In fact, when you talk about Godrej, it's a group that enjoys patronage of nearly 1.1 billion consumers
Yeah.
globally and across different businesses. Godrej offers products, as you mentioned, in three segments: personal care, hair care, household care, with famous brands like Synthol, Goodnight, Pocket. In fact, I'll come down to Pocket after this question because it's a really interesting twist. But my question to you is, what, according to you, is the one statement that describes the ideology at GCPL?
So, in a nutshell, we call it collaborate, create, and execute. But to be a little bit more specific, we are an in house design function with an absolute integrated approach in developing product and brands and its experiences, right? So what I would like to say is we maximize the collective intelligence of the organization in designing delight through every product offering at Godrej. So that's been our approach. And this is something which has evolved over time. Very early in my career, I realized that in a category like that, the innovation and the idea has to seed from R&D and the science, and innovation has to happen there. So I think we largely depend on a lot of functions and a lot of cross functional to make sure that we create something which is practical and something which can be executed.
Interesting. So, when we look at the globalized economy, all sorts of countries are a melting pot with people from all sorts of, places coming together. We're now talking about Made in India, and Godrej is like a truly Indian multinational company, where Godrej is, creating and selling products, to in a lot of countries in the world. So while creating for Indonesian and African markets, what difference did you see as compared to the Indian markets? And were there any stark, interesting insights about human behavior in those markets?
I mean, it's a fascinating question, and I think I would say this was the highlight of my career when I went out to immerse into these markets. All three, right? India, Indonesia, and Africa. They are such incredibly rich cultures and people and geographies. If I were to go much in detail, it would require a separate session on this because the insights are very rich and quite eye opening for me as a designer. So India has a very festive spirit, right? While Indonesia is very fun loving in its taste, and Africa is absolutely fearless. And Africa is not even a nation, it's a continent, right? So you have to imagine within Africa itself, East, South, and West Africa, again, they have differentiation, different behaviors. And raised in India, it was much easier for me to, having experiencing different years of life myself. I knew the structures, the psychographics, the economics, our hierarchy of preferences, everything quite well. So I didn't have to. I mean, I just had to note them down. I didn't really have to like go and travel too much in each and every gully or every neighborhood because I've been doing that while I was growing up. And so, but in Indonesia and Africa, Indonesia, or both of them have very different belief systems, very different aesthetic preferences, very different consumption patterns, social dynamics, lifestyle, values, habits, climate. And we also had to study, for example, in both of these places, geographies, how these homes, how the cities are planned and where are the markets, what is the structure. We have a very strong GT market. And when I look at Indonesia, the retail design is very different. And automatically, the way you design for that retail itself is going to be very different than what would you do in India, because in India, you're designing for mom and pop stores. While in Indonesia, if 60-70% is modern retail and everything is on the shelf, it requires a very different kind of design approach. While in Africa, overall Africa is very youthful, very energetic. At the same time, in terms of technology, they are so much more ahead of us. The whole salon culture, the neighborhood markets, the way they are, the shops, the landscape is very different. So each of these geographies have their own struggles and very peculiar in itself. Of course, there are some uncanny similarities because of the economy and because we are all developing nations, but at the same time, very diverse culture. So, I mean, I can go on and on about it, but I think in while designing, we have been very careful. In fact, in Africa, the category we play in is a very different category. It's hair extensions, and it's almost like a fast fashion. The way it's consumed is like FMCG, but it's actually a fashion category. And it took me at least 3 years, like the whole team, all of us, to figure out what this is all about and how is it connected with your life, economy, social status, need, functionality, emotional feeling, everything. So it's a lot more tougher, and you have to be a lot more sensitive when you design for other nations.
In fact, Darshan, there was one more interesting thing which will keep as our last question in this segment before we move to skills. And within India, barring a few organizations and institutions, it isn't looked upon as a product design destination. In fact, the European nations or the US is more known for the same, whereas India stands tall as far as manufacturing is concerned. The question that I have is, how can we promote design in India and make in India together?
There are again many aspects to it, but I will touch upon the few one which I think are big ones to address. In the other nations, I have a lot of friends. When I speak to them or when they hear me talk or see what I write, and they say that it's very strange that design is not well understood. So I think the first problem is that we don't have the basic understanding as a general population, right? When you go to Europe or US, when you say I'm a designer, they know exactly what I do, right? I mean, I don't have to explain. We have a lot of these jokes when we say that, what do you do? And I say product designer, and then they'll say, oh, packaging. And no, you have to literally like explain, and it'll take you so much time to explain what I do. And design being a field, it's not easy to explain what we do. But in India, that's a big gap. People don't understand design as a discipline, what exactly goes, because I think we understand design more as styling and feature based discipline and not beyond that. So that's a bigger issue here. Second is, I think other nations, they get really good support from government, right? I've been to recent CII design mission in Finland with the group of senior designers from India, and it was really interesting to hear everybody's stories and also contrast us as a group when we go there, and when we met a lot of these local studios, and actually, it was a national initiative. So of course we went to their offices, and I was stunned that how much interest they take at city planning. They have, in government has the whole ministry of design, literally, where they are doing city planning, signages, transportation, where people can see the difference in their cities, in their livings, and when they know it's coming through this kind of initiatives, that's the best way to educate people, and that's the best way to change, create impact, right? So I think that's another thing which I think that India lacks, is that full support, government adapting to this discipline seriously and changing our everyday interaction. And the way to think about is that, yeah, all this is fact. Now what? I believe that we should all talk now. What is it that we can do? I think we need to create few examples, right? At national level, and who will do this? Which are these bodies? I haven't seen many bodies succeeding again. So I think if there were two or three big institutes or big industries who, like Godrej, if there were more who can promote these field, because what we can do is only in FMCG right now. What we have done a little bit in architecture, and I'm very proud that at GPL also, Godrej Properties also, we have done a little bit of design thinking. But I think I would love to see more, whether it is education, whether it is at service design, city planning. How can we create at least two or three big examples, and that will educate people.
And we are happy to share that we've collaborated with World Skills India for this show. And today we have with us Head World Skills India, Mr. Ranjan Chaudhary, who will share with us the initiatives that they take at World Skills.
Thank you. World Skills is like the Olympics of skills. And World Skills Youth Day, which is on 15th of July, was actually proposed in the General Assembly of 2014 as a day on which youth across the world could be recognized, especially for the importance that they hold in terms of skills which power most of the economic activity. So, World Skills Youth Day is actively promoted by the industry and NSDC. World Skills India is an initiative of the National Skill Development Corporation, and our role is essentially to promote skills amongst youth, to look at vocational trades as a viable option to knowledge-based careers, and to create role models through skill competitions. Very happy that Avantika is collaborating with us to promote a series on design through podcasts. It is our opinion that creative arts is something which holds a lot of potential in future. In fact, in the last World Skills competition held in Kazan, a girl from India, we won the bronze medal, defeating a lot of Western countries, and happy that Avantika is taking this forward, and all best wishes to those who are on this podcast. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary, for joining us on Avantika Designeering podcast series. So moving from this to the World Youth Skills Day, and skilling has been a challenge in India, and there's so much written about it. So my next few questions would be in terms of your views on this entire domain. So the first one is that previously freshers and students educated them with all skills specific to their preferred jobs. Now with specialized jobs, how should they go about acquiring these skills?
The short answer to this is on the job. I think we need to look at education and academics differently. Earlier, they start doing more freelancing, start taking some more time, start doing projects, trying out themselves out in what they are good at. Is when the real learning is going to happen.
Interesting. Did you also do some of these things while you were going through your academics?
Yes, I did that, and I think I'm very glad now. And at that time, I did it because I needed some money, but also because I found that it was a great opportunity, and I was learning so much more while I was doing my project. And even if for a brief time, whatever little I could, I don't have to be a head of design or leading anything, but just be part of that team teaches you so much more.
Absolutely. And I think your views come more from the experience. So moving from there to, we hear the term jack of all trades and master of none frequently. Do you feel that in today's age and time, having dabbled at a mixed bag of skills is better than mastering one skill? What should the young folks be doing?
I would separate exploration, experimentation, and experiences differently. It means very different than the term jack of all trades, right? And I wouldn't want to confuse this two. In a field of design, specifically, or whoever wants to do more innovation, they have to be they have to be in line and in sync with every new invention, subject, whether it's history, what's coming in the future, what was, there in 300 BC to what's going to come in next 10 years. I think it's an ongoing research for if you have a mindset of creation or bringing some change. But when it comes to a very specific question, I believe that one has to aim for mastering. And when I say that, I said, if you want to be a jack of all trades, you better be the best of it, be a master in that. But I think it's important to find out what you are good at earlier. As I think I found that out much later. So I can say that because of our educational system is so all around that sometimes, we don't get time to reflect. But I think you have to find out what you really good at, what you really enjoy, and that keep doing that. And I think there is a power in repetition and practice, and there is so much then you can go deeper into. That doesn't mean you can't explore, that doesn't mean that you don't have, you cannot, you don't have to have knowledge of other things. You have knowledge, but then I think you have to master one skill eventually, is what I believe.
Interesting. There are certain skills which are known as soft skills, that's very loosely used, which we see now more than ever to be important to the function of an organization. So while we focus on learning physical or software skills, for example, in design schools, we sidetrack some of these soft skills. How do you think young designers can learn these skills?
It's always difficult to strike a balance, and it's an important balance to always have. I have seen both the cases where I have seen a bad idea, but it gets picked up or it gets more attention because of a great build up and amazing presentation skills, or using jargons and amplification of the features. And I've also seen good ideas being rejected for often not understanding it clearly, right? And lack of contextualization and illustration. So between the both, if I were to pick one, it's important to have a good idea first. And once you have that, more than soft skill, I would say that find out a style, because everybody has a different style. At least don't try to be like somebody else. So there is no standard norm. But when it comes to creativity or design, there are so many ways you can make a presentation or a pitch. Sometimes some people are good at making paper mock-ups or even just doing doodles, or now you have 3D renditions now, scripting. It doesn't have to be verbal all the time. It doesn't mean soft skill doesn't mean that you have to have a very good English, and it doesn't mean that you have to use fancy words. But make sure that when you're presenting an idea, you make audience is important, and you have to connect with them. So whatever that you need to do, idea will never get materialized, or if the audience is not engaged. So it's important. The presentation is really, really important. But then again, don't go by the mainstream ideas of communication, and be innovative there. And I think that's why we have juries, right? And the whole purpose of having a jury is to practice that, and don't take juries for granted. Try and test yourself out, see what worked, what didn't work, how can you improve. I think these are again some of the things at when you are a student, rather than being distracted. And these are simple things you can focus on, which is very valuable when you get into a professional field. And I have seen a lot of good designers struggle because of just not having an orientation or a discipline or importance to presentations.
Absolutely. In fact, I personally believe that communications is less of your speaking and more of how you can think. And if you can think in a systematic way, your communication skills would be good always.
Yeah. And how do you how do you kind of take people along, participate, make them participate in your conversation more than anything else?
We are in a difficult patch in terms of hiring and the job landscape right now. And of course, this is something that we cannot overlook. The entire Avantika Designeering series being a university product, we keep wondering how skills can be used to secure employment, or what freshers can do in this lockdown period to prepare for the future.
I understand this is easier said than done because we are such a populated country, and I'm sure right now everybody is feeling that pressure of what will happen next. Will they get internship? Will they get job? What's gonna, how the new normal is gonna look like? But to have a little bit more optimistic view on this is also a great time to kind of start learn a new skill. There are a lot of online courses. I am doing a lot of courses online, at least a few. There are online classes that you can participate into. I thought of I used to do a 3D render earlier, but now I don't know what are the new softwares which are easier to learn. So I think I would pick up some of those, create hypothetical briefs, make a group of other friends and students, kind of brainstorm, and this whole Zoom and online chats and videos open up a completely new world for us. And let's get connected on that and use those meaningfully. Start simple things like noting down some of the interesting observations and insights. This because of the COVID, what could be a new idea that you might have, render it out, right? Do a lot of craft and art. Build up your portfolio profile. There's so much time to kind of uh, build build so much about your own ideas. Usually you don't get that kind of a time because you get into this daily routine. So in a way they can use this time very, very productively and creatively, and I would keep that in focus, and to not get anxiety to you and start thinking about what's going to happen in the future, but actually enjoy this time.
In fact, what's interesting about your answer, Darshan, is that here I'm speaking on a podcast. I'm recording a session with the global director of design of Godrej, and you are also talking about doing things, or you are in fact doing things that ideally a student or someone who's about to graduate or who's just graduated should be doing. So that's so inspiring and that's so interesting. In fact, it tells people that hey, there's never an age to learn and develop. It's a consistent process, and you keep doing it always. So that's very inspirational. Moving from that to you having worked in FMCG for so many years, there must have been warehouse full of domain knowledge. Is there a way creators and professionals can have a head start on acquiring the domain specific or industry specific skills?
See, again, going back to design education teaches you about various ways of need finding, user research, framing relevant problem statements, observation. It's an observation based discipline. There are tons of tools and skill, finally to create and visualize solutions. The first leg of this entire design process, as we call, a lot of people call it different things, but it's immersion or investigation or inquiry, right? And my advice to the young professionals when they either they go fresh from school or they're changing the field from one industry to other industry, one has to understand their own environment around you, right? It took me at least 8 to 9 months to understand what FMCG is, because from school, I went to interior for some time, for 2.5 years, for a brief period of time, and I kind of did mostly what I did at NID. But when I went to FMCG and sat down into those different functional meetings, I think for a long time I was just making notes. I was just understanding what people are talking about, asking silly, dumb questions, and not worrying about how foolish I may sound, but I would ask the dumbest question, yeah, and made some buddies around you and ask. I think I would ask the leadership in the organization to give you that kind of a space initially, help you have a buddy system, help you understand the landscape of the work, what are the interconnected dots, what are different functions, what everybody does, go and do a proper induction, do research. I think that 6 to 8 months time is really critical, because I don't know, without that, how can you add value without knowing the environment around you? So I think it's important for people to be patient and not directly rush into creating solutions without knowing the impact.
Absolutely. I think that's a very interesting suggestion, which is very engaging, and more than that, it also builds your skills in terms of, working in teams, working with people. And that's an additional benefit that you get out of an exercise like this as well. So, having been such a big part of juries and competitions across, what do you see in the future generation of designers? What kind of designers do we as a generation need currently?
There are some interesting insights and reports I've been reading myself, and because this gave me a lot of time to kind of also see what's gonna change now, and what is it that how can I change now. And I think there are two buckets. One is the set of classical designers that will remain timeless, brand design, graphic identity, a hardcore classical product design. I'm not talking about product design, which is, now product design definitions are changing. I mean, designing an app is also product design, and designing a device, a physical device, is also product design. So these boundaries and these classifications are changing, and one have to be wary of that. So while classical designer will always remain very important for the skill and craftsmanship, and but they'll be able to add lot only more variations to the same thing or new expressions to it. But at core, a lot has changed, and we have to recognize that. And things like designers who can, are able to integrate social good and have that sensitivity in the design solutions will be important. Ability to humanize tech, make technology and computer more enduring, and less intimidating, is another big set of tasks that we designers have to go after. Integrated approach, who can bring science, craft, tech, design. So it's not just multidisciplinary, but multi-industry approach. So the designer who can work at the systems level will be very, very important again. So I think these are some of the new emerging areas for designers, and the generation needs to recognize this now.
So, Darshan, can you teach a small skill through this show that design students can apply in their lives?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one skill that I think really helped me, and when I go back to my earlier job, I didn't do that much, but at GCPL, sitting down in a lot of these business presentations or meetings, when we talk about, losing market share, or gross contribution, or profits, or when we talk about growth, or when we talk about penetration data. Now, some of these things, I didn't quite understand conceptually and how they are interconnected. And if I'm sitting there, what am I supposed to make out of it, right? So it required me to understand, take separate classroom sessions, to read Excel sheets and numbers in a way that I can um, uh, contextualize, exactly what we as company or business or a product is going through. And hence, when you come up with ideas and solutions, you have a better context of, what are the constraints that one has to follow. So that was a very critical skills, and I make sure that our design team, is fully kind of again go through that kind of a training and understanding.
Absolutely. In fact, at Avantika, we blended even entrepreneurship as subject over 2 semesters where we teach some of these skills to our students. In fact, at Avantika University, we've coined a term called as designeering, which is combination of design and engineering. So we see the skills of design and technology, meeting with each other and have become a powerful duo. One, do you think it's relevant? And second, do you think that such a blend also helps GCPL create a better solution?
It's a natural progression, right? The way humans are evolving, design has to evolve with it. So it's an absolute must to now look at, design for tech. Comes to GCPL, I think tech has enabled us to know our consumers even more deeply. With this closeness, one can design solution based on their personalized need a lot more. So till now, what we have done at GCPL, the portfolio was more commonized, or say I would say more universalized to masses. Because of the way our retail is, the way we were consuming things. We would go to general trade markets or shops to buy things, and now people are buying everything online, and more are people buying online. I think this whole virtual world of information has so many nuances through which you can understand latent needs and wants and and desires of each and every person. So it's the best time to get to know your consumers very well beyond their psychographics and demographics. And I think it'll be interesting the next journey for us to kind of how do we address this through a very different proposition, very different design, very different systems of offerings, and we can bring a lot of positive change through this. Because right now, what you're doing is whatever you've designed for masses, for general trade, you are just putting it online. But now, once you are online, the behavior is actually so much more encouraging for us also now use that data to design very differently.
Darshan, that brings us to our last question, which is a segment that, something that we call as Gyan Vyan. So it's a quickie takeaway segment. There's like our take on rapid fire, where we will shoot some questions at you and we would like to know your top of the mind answers to it. So are you ready for this?
Absolutely.
So my first question is, what TV sitcom family would you be a member of and why?
I like The Good Place. It's an interesting take on this human, good and bad quality, what is right and wrong, and this whole idea of how we look at people and how we behave in certain situation. It's a great humorous sarcastic take on our own foolish behaviors, and it's a great reflection. So I would love to be playing the main character, and I find the whole scripting that we keep getting into this loopholes again and again, and we always have to get out of it. It's a whole struggle. I find it very exciting.
And if given a chance, which Godrej rich creme hair color are you? Are you natural brown, which is elegance, warm, honesty, or are you burgundy, which is wealth, power, ambition?
Oh, I'm absolutely natural brown.
Okay. And if you were a product or a brand, what would you be?
I would say Muji.
Okay. And why?
Again, I like the philosophy that something is designed but doesn't shout out that it is designed, and it's filled with so much joy, and it's so much easy on your eye. It's so comfortable, and I just find it's very calming, and there's so much more space to with this kind of a brand, and I just love the way they feel.
Excellent. And would you rather be able to teleport yourself anywhere, or would you like to read minds of everyone? We got inspired by this movie called What Women Want, and we thought we would like to ask you: would you want to get teleported anywhere, or would you like to read minds?
I would like to read minds. That's my job in a way. You're observing people keenly, what they do, every transaction, every action says something about them. So I think I draw a lot of my ideas and inspiration from those basic observations, which I love doing. It's my best pastime.
Excellent. And according to you, a must-read book?
Well, I recently read this book called A Rasa Reader by Sheldon Pollock. It's a book on classical Indian aesthetics. I was writing a paper, and that kind of took me back into the history of Indian aesthetics, and I was stunned by the amount of work Indian scholars and intellects have done back from 300 BC, somewhere sitting in Kashmir, till 1400 BC, and these ideas are supremely bold, extremely progressive, absolutely not dogmatic, still seated in great human values. And it's kind of, when I was reading, I thought that it's almost sounding like more elaborate and more matured and more evolved version of design thinking, I would say. So I would totally recommend all the students to, while they are busy learning about tech and computer, etc., it's a good contrast to learn about something like this, which talks about so many different, literary art. There are so many ideas lying there. It was fascinating.
And my last one, if you were not at Godrej, where do you think you would be working, and what is it that you would be doing?
I think I would have been a ceramist.
Oh, okay. So that's something that excites you. You still do that?
Yeah, I mean, I do as and when I get chance, and it's a dream to have my own ceramic studio at some point, and kind of I find that in contrast with a very structural, analytical system thinking, I find just play a lot more peaceful, artistic, and kind of unlimiting.
Beautiful. So we would like to definitely see some of your work offline. And thank you so much for doing this, Darshan. It was a pleasure hosting you on our show on this eve of World Youth Skills Day. I'm sure that there's a lot for our listeners to learn from our conversation, to get inspired by you. So thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me, and I hope you'll find this insightful and useful at some point.
Hey
Thank
there,
you.
we hope you
Thank
enjoyed
Rohit.
our show.
Thank you,
Do
Darshan.
write to us on ads@avantika.edu.in. We look forward to your opinions, feedbacks, and suggestions of speakers you would like us to host on this show. Do tune in our channel next week on Wednesday for a new story on Hubhopper or wherever you get your podcast from. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter.